The Invitation is a recent vampire-inspired addition to a genre that's becoming more and more common with every passing year: the modern Gothic. Bringing classic horror stories into the modern era, films like The Invitation are often among the creepiest and most frightening that cinema has to offer. Even those who aren't in love with horror movies can appreciate the creative flair of this particular subgenre, though many of the most exciting and inventive modern Gothic stories have tragically flown under the radar over the years. Gothicism has always been present in both literature and film, and it's movies such as The Invitation that keep the style alive for a new generation. 10/10 The Witch, 2015, mixes Gothicism and classic folklore. When it comes to today's most exciting horror directors, Robert Eggers' name certainly deserves to be in the conversation. Hess only directed 3 films to date, but even from his debut, The Witch, it was clear that his distinct style is exactly what the genre has been missing. Eggers develops a very specific mixture of Gothicism and classic folklore in The Witch, forging a haunting story that's sure to give chills to even the toughest of audiences. It's bold and dynamic in both its narrative and filmmaking, immediately cementing Robert Eggers as one of the biggest names in the genre. 9/10 Crimson Peak, 2015, dripped with Del Toro's flair. For many movie fans, Guillermo del Toro's films represent the highest strengths of the Gothic genre. Filled to the brim with haunting imagery and overwhelming darkness, the director's filmography features some of the most iconic entries in the genre. Crimson Peak was a bit of a departure for Del Toro, filled with an eccentricity and flamboyance that had never really displayed in his films before. It introduced a whole new wave of audiences to classic Gothicism, which is why so many fans consider Crimson Peak to be one of Guillermo del Toro's best movies so far. 8/10 from Hell, 2001, is 8/10. Slow burn. Johnny Depp plays a clairvoyant police detective on the hunt for Jack the Ripper in From Hell, a classic piece of Gothic filmmaking that forges a haunting tale of fear and violence from the real-life story of Whitechapel's elusive serial killer and based on a graphic novel of the same name. Like most classic Gothic works, From Hell recounts a slow-paced narrative that takes its time to unfold, building tension in every single scene and crawling underneath the audience's skin at every opportunity. But despite this gradual pacing, the film's many astute performances ensure that there isn't a single boring moment in the story. 7/10 The Woman in Black, 2012, updates a classic story. Susan Hill's The Woman in Black is undoubtedly one of the most iconic and foundational texts in Gothic literature, which is brought to life most effectively through James Watkins' modern adaptation. With Daniel Radcliffe in the lead role, the film chronicles Hill's original story with several modern twists. Narratively, The Woman in Black is almost identical to the original text. Where Watkins introduces his own modern flair is in the direction, which draws inspiration from the most successful horror movies of his time and adapts these tropes into a classic story. 6/10 Constantine, 2005, is a Gothic comic book movie. It might not be the most critically acclaimed horror movie ever made, but Francis Lawrence's Constantine remains one of the most entertaining and creative entries into the Gothic genre. It's admittedly more of a thriller than a horror, but Lawrence effortlessly blends the two genres to the point that it's difficult to distinguish between them. Plenty of movie fans cite Constantine as their guilty pleasure comic book movie, which makes complete sense given just how unique and stylish the film is. It's unlike any other comic book movie of its time, with dark narratives and hellish imagery to keep the story alive. 5/10 The Eyes of My Mother, 2016, is shocking and haunting. Nicholas Pess's directorial debut The Eyes of My Mother was widely praised upon its release for being one of the most hauntingly original stories of its time. It's absolutely fearless with its storytelling, confidently crafting a story that deserves its spot among even the most popular Gothic works. The Eyes of My Mother revels in its chilling monochrome visuals, forging some haunting imagery that aims to both shock and unsettle its audience. The film certainly isn't an easy watch, but it's a brilliant viewing experience for anybody looking to really lose themselves in a scary story. 4/10 The Lighthouse, 2019, cemented Eggers' legacy. Robert Eggers' sophomore film is even more chilling and unsettling than his first, telling a disturbing story about two men who find themselves trapped together in an old lighthouse with a dark past. The story uses plenty of classic Gothic tropes to build its dark atmosphere, but its crisp cinematography and technical prowess give it a modern twist. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe both offer career-best performances in the film, exploring the damaged psyches of their characters with a terrifying intensity. It was The Lighthouse that finally cemented Robert Eggers as one of the best horror directors working today. 3/10 The Babadook, 2014, is a powerful metaphor. Not only is The Babadook one of the most underrated horror movies of its time, but it's also one of the strongest entries that the Gothic genre has seen for a long time. Bursting with terrifying folklore and exceptional filmmaking centered on the idea of repressive grief, the film proves that despite any misconceptions, Gothic horror is just as original today as it was 50 years ago. The Babadook has gathered a reputation in recent years as one of the scariest movies ever made, which is both a testament to director Jennifer Kent's filmmaking abilities and the timeless nature of supernatural folklore in horror. 2/10 Sweeney Todd, 2007, is a memorable horror musical. Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd blends two genres together that nobody else could ever have envisioned working as well as it does horror and musicals. Filled with some of the catchiest and wittiest music in recent memory, the film uses its distinct style to create a wholly unique atmosphere that only Burton could have managed.